Now with me a very important guest who is the new German Consul General for Bangalore, Mr. Achim Burkart. Thank you so much for being here. And I'd like to welcome you to this seat here. While I would ask you some questions, can we have one mic for the Consul also, please? Yes, yes. Thank you so much. So, of course, we are also happy to say that we have used a sanitizing machine outside, which is created by a startup, and that is your mic. So, we have this panel and this discussion. We planned it with two people. Unfortunately, our KUIDFC managing director could not join us. Chief Minister has called for some important meeting, so of course they have to take care, and so she had to go there. She excused herself. Maybe she will be here tomorrow. Let's see. I wanted to ask you because Germany in a lot of ways is leading in sustainable development and in sustainable urban development. And many times we know that German technology always gives an edge over many other technology, the reliance and the reliability that people have. So my first question to you is, how has been the journey of sustainable urbanization in Germany, and what are the key learnings that Germany, as they tried to get more and more sustainable along the way, they found?
Yeah, yes, thank you very much for inviting me and giving me that question. You know, urbanization is not a new concept. It's something which we have seen quite a long time already in history. You know, we can go back in the 17th and even 16th century, where the first ideas of how towns should look like were developed. You know, look at the town of Karlsruhe, which is a very well planned town and was planned not only to the center of the Archduke there, but also to embed the needs of the citizens. Mm-hmm. And later on, take the Bauhaus movement with Gropius Town or that garden city ideas, etc. So it's not a new idea, and somehow it was interesting in the last discussion we had here before, mentioning that in the keynote speech, that the carbon dioxide emissions were getting up extremely in the 1950s. I think we lost path somewhere in between, and we centered our development on the belief that everything is possible. We can just take whatever it needs to make things nice and easy going for us. We now realize since quite a while, and I remember like in the beginning of the 19th, we had the first Rio conference, that these things are not as nice as they look like, and we're just on the verge of destroying our planet. So urbanization is something which is very closely linked to that process. And I think if you look over to the policies in my country, we probably started like 20 years ago on having a more holistic approach to urbanization and linking it to what is needed. If you look at urbanization, it's very different in all the different countries. So what is urbanization in India, and what is urbanization in Germany, and what is urbanization, let's say, in Africa, has nothing to do with each other. There are certain, similarities, but there are a lot of differences also. So we try two sides of it. So there is an international side to it, which means cooperation with others, and I think we should also talk about that later. And there is, the kind of local questions which come with it, which is Germany. We have one ministry which is responsible for that on the federal level, which is the Ministry of Interior, Planning, and Communities. But you know very well in India, you are a federal state. We are a federal state. A lot of responsibilities lies with the federal states and also with the communities themselves. So there where we try to start, and the government, and one of the panelists just said that the government has a role to play on all different levels, on the highest federal level, on the federal states level, and on the community level. So yes, the government has to be there. We, as a federal government, because I'm dependent from the federal government, what we try is to set a framework in terms of, tax policies, environmental rules and regulations, which are, valid for each and everybody, supporting, projects in terms of renewable energy, etc., etc. So there are many, many, many-fold programs and projects going on all different sectors, which trickle down then to the federal states and then to the communities. I just, in the preparation of that meeting today, for example, I realized, and I didn't know that before, that we do have actually a standing conference on this, and we have a smart city dialogue. And in 2019 already, it was the 13th smart city dialogue. So you can see it's a very integrated approach in Germany, which includes academics, politics, local communities, universities, whomever who is interested in that process, NGOs. I think that approach is very important. And perhaps to end with, we are far from being where we want to be. Mm-hmm. You know that after the Fukushima catastrophe in Japan, Germany decided to opt out of the nuclear energy. It was about 50 or 54% of our energy mix, which is a lot. So we have already switched off some of our power plants, and we will switch off all others in the years to come. And every day I follow a little bit. There is a newspaper, the German Spiegel, which has a kind of a life ticker. So our sustainable energy mix, renewable energy mix, is something between 30% in the night to 60% during the day. So you can see we are nearly by 50% in our energy mix now for renewables on average, which is already a great achievement. So I think, and with that I will end that question. I think with the energy question is one of the vital questions in urbanization.
Yeah, because from what you're saying, the sense I'm getting is, I think people were growing very fast in the early 90s, and each one was, running with his speed and his company and how to get the resources to grow. And somewhere midway, we realized that, it's not the best solution to go this way. And then the collaboration structures came in place. So people learn to collaborate. So I think that's really a core point, because when we are taking care of the climate and planet, I think that's a good learning. Even we too in India are starting to realize that no one department or one agency or one stakeholder can fix the problem. So I think that's a really good learning, because from what you're saying, it's clear to me that it has to be a multi-stakeholder approach and everybody has to do their part. So thank you for that. Now, I have the second question. You see, in Germany, I know that after the Fukushima disaster that, you decided to change the energy mix. And as you took up this initiative, were there some other initiatives also that, because I know that many of something that I've heard, maybe you can enlighten us a little bit more, that they try to make many of the old buildings energy efficient and so on, which is, on one side is the power mix and on the other side is the efficiency part. So can you give us some examples of such projects that have come to your attention and something that India can also learn from some of these projects?
Yeah, thank you. You already mentioned the most important point of it. If you look at the waste of energy in a country which has very cold times during the year, which is not the case in southern India, but in the northern part of India, it might get cold too. Yeah. So the question of waste through housing is an immense, I would say, it's a power bank. You have to look at it in a positive way. It's like a mistake. The mistake is in principle not only a mistake, but it's also a resource. And by doing the mistake in wasting energy, by building buildings in a way that the heat goes out, that the transport of energy is wasteful, etc., only by that, the figures I found on it, about 20% of the energy can be saved So that already shows you what can be done only by energy efficiency. And if you look at at where are the big polluters and where are the big CO2 emissionaries, housing is one of the big ones, if not the big one, you know. And there are other things which are, you know, which is very strange, like nobody would talk about agriculture. That's also a big, you know, a big area where a lot of CO2 emissions is there. And housing is the other one. And traffic, yes, it's important, but it's not the biggest one, you know. That's the interesting thing about it. So as I told you before, we as a government, we can do something about it. And we did for house owners, for example, who do renovate their house in a way that it's more energy efficient or even energy neutral. There is a lot of support, financial support. We have the so-called KfW, which is our development bank. They put up programs. That's a bank how the government, the central government, is channeling money to certain programs which they support. So, for example, you're a house owner, you want to have an energetic construction, then you get a credit there, which is first much cheaper, and perhaps 20 or 30% of the credit you don't have to pay back because it's a subsidy for the energetic renovation of your house. So there is a lot of legal possibilities and financial possibilities for our citizens in order to support this process.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I think I've also heard of these things. You know, some people say that they have these schemes where, you know, they get some money back, or they, you know, they have to fix it in the insulation in a thermal sense, and then they are able to get a rebate or some credits. And I think this is also a good system that some of our larger cities can emulate, especially that they have older buildings, you know, in that sense. The other point I wanted to ask you was, you know, as India tries to build its sustainability ecosystems, you know, what could be the different areas for collaboration with Germany? So, on one side, of course, there will be a few projects that maybe you put on your website, and, you know, there are some calls for, you know, different research opportunities for people to do PhD and so on in Germany in these topics. But generally, if you can tell us, you know, a couple of more things where there could be opportunities for collaboration to build that ecosystem, you know, also parallelly, as you are building in Germany, we could also start building something similar also in India. You have any ideas or suggestions on this point?
My ministry, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and my minister, Minister Maas, he has seen that urbanization is a very central point to the development of mankind and in terms of reaching the sustainable development goals. You know, we have the Agenda 2030, we have the development goals, etc., and urbanization. Because of, you know, 2050, I think 75% of people on this planet are living in cities. We have seen that urbanization is part of our foreign policy. So that's a more abstract point, you know. So what we do is on an international level. We are very convinced of multilateralism. So we believe that we need expand bilateral and multilateral urban partnerships. We need to support the climate goals. And we need to implement the new urban agenda of the United Nations, which was established in 2016. So these are the more abstract level things which we need to do. But coming back to the center of your question in terms of India, I think where urban development is concerned, Germany can always be a partner in all areas, be it academia, be it companies, be it technology, and be it IT, for example. But And there I come to a point. We're in Bangalore. You know, we're sitting in the middle of the IT hub in India, or if not one of the biggest IT hubs in the world. So I see a lot of cooperation, and because digitization is a part of urban planning, of a sustainable city planning in the now and in the future. So I believe that that these kind of things we can work together very clearly. This is the more, the more also very modern approach to things. If you look, for example, to ongoing projects, there's a project in Kochi, Kerala, where the urban mobility is enhanced through a project of the Indian government together with the German government.
Okay.
And together also with the French government. So my ambassador actually and the French ambassador will go there on, I think, the 12th of December to inaugurate. It's about the urban mobility on the waterways of Kochi, which were completely left, apart, out of the picture somehow, but are one of the most important and easy possibilities to have sustainable public transport.
Yeah.
So you can see there are the concrete levels, so where we really work together, and it's actually very close with the local government. They do have a mayor, and she is so committed to that thing. She's really pushing these things forward, and it will be a success story. So people who watch this today should really look at that project in Kochi, because it gives just an example of what can be done in urban planning. So you see, it's the cooperation between Germany and India can be concrete on that level. It can be on the business level. Let's say IT, which I was mentioning, doing smart city applications, whatever that might be, in transport and mobility and administration and all these kind of areas. And it might be on an international level where Germany and India, we do have a strategic partnership, and we try to work together in international fora to forward that agenda of a more sustainable planet.
Okay, excellent. Because some time back I heard about this Kochi project. I think, is this linked to a solar boat and things like that? Is that the one? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's also about electricity.
Okay.
Electricity is one of the solutions to a problem, but it's not the one solution.
Okay.
Because we also has to ask, where come the electricity from? So you were mentioning rightly the solar aspect of it, and
Yes.
that is something where we always have to look at.
Okay, excellent. And of course, unfortunately, Sumit from the Indo-German Chamber was to join us these days, but he has a family emergency, could not join us. So just since you are here, I thought of asking you. So when any companies in India also would like to do something in the sustainable field with Germany, do you think they can approach the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce and so on? Are there some channels or some programs, especially in sustainable urbanization, for collaboration and for partnership? Is there something that you are aware of already, or is better that we reach the Chamber of Commerce and so on?
If a company has a project, I'm sure that the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce is the best partner to go to. They can also approach me, and I will go to the summit and say, there's somebody coming to me, please just take care of this person. But if it comes to political cooperation, I think we, the Consulate General or the Embassy in Delhi, we are the right partners in order to approach. And where I take a lot of effort or emphasis on is the cooperation in sciences. One of our main tasks in my consulate is the cooperation in the science sector. And I firmly believe that in the sustainable urbanization, and I think we heard it, in the keynote speech, it was very clear. There's a lot of, brain power which is needed to bring things forward. And that has been done in the universities, in the institutes, in the corporation, in working together and having the view on each other's problems. I think that, this interchange of experiences, that interchange of knowledge brings out a better result after all. So what we do in our consulate is to support this kind of institutional, working together between the academia of India and Germany.
Okay, excellent. I think that gives a good perspective, because we saw the example of Janagraha, which is a project with the government, with the private sector and so on. a lot of these smart urbanization, sustainable urbanization initiative are kind of public-private, so they will need maybe the chambers of commerce and also some political support from both sides as they either do study tours of some examples of certain projects in Germany, and then they come back and implement it here in India. Because in the past there were some cases like this where a delegation of officials and a mix of NGO and a mix of civil society organizations and some companies would go and to see a certain kind of technology being implemented, and to study that, and because seeing is believing, like they say, and then it's much more easier, like one of our panelists said, to practice urgent patience, because if you see and you know that okay, in the end it will work, you can be patient, but then you can be urgent to pursue it. So would also from the German side there would be willingness to have such things, of course in the coming years after COVID is is over, let's say.
No, but we do have these kind of programs,
Okay.
visiting programs, and we do quite a number of these in the field of sustainable energy and sustainable development, and I think urban planning is part of it. As I told you before, that urbanization is a policy field where the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is very much engaged in. We also do these kind of travels for foreign partners to Germany in that particular field. When I was in Africa, in Zambia, so we organized a travel from experts from the sub-Saharan Africa to Germany on urbanization, because also there urbanization is one of the big challenges for these countries. So no, that is very important. And what is also very important in these kind of travels, it won't be only experts from India. It will be experts perhaps from Korea, from India, from other countries. So that this interchange also gives ideas and gives rise to new solutions to problems perhaps one before didn't think of. We try to support these kind of endeavors.
Okay, excellent. I would also like to personally thank you because you agreed to be on the advisory board of the TIA Summit, which every year does sustainability events. Of course, this year we don't have any audience, and people will see it digitally over time. We had to start at 10 a.m. India time, even though in Europe it's a bit early for people, but all this will be online so people can see it and follow it. I just want to ask you two more things, and with that we will conclude. One is, what is your message for the young entrepreneurs? They're just, I think you might have seen and met also someone already in India in these last months that you are here. Any message that you would like to give to all these young people?
Being a 60-year-old diplomat, it's kind of difficult to tell a 30-year or 25-year-old person what he or she should do. But I've seen so many, young talents here already, and I was fascinated by their, livelihood, by their, strive for success and for new ideas. So I can only ask them to continue. But if I would say something, then I would tell them, please, if you have a project, some preparation of it, and you have to include the ones you target somehow. That you don't do something without knowing your clientele and taking them on board, because then otherwise you have a product which might be nice, but it will never hit the ground, and that is something where I feel the reality check has always to be there.
Okay, and just the last question, like I promised you, because we keep all our events very short and very engaging. You have been now in India the last, I think, 4 months. So yeah, 4 months. Okay. So what have been your impressions? If you have to summarize in a few lines in the last 4 months.
I recently was visiting a German company here, high-tech company, and I came back in the consulate and I said to my colleagues, it's like little Achim in a toy shop, you know. It's amazing. I'm really amazed about what I do see here. What amazing willingness to develop, to have new ideas, to engage, and to find solutions for problems. That is something which I would not, you know, I had Bangalore on my wish list in the ministry, so I'm very happy to be here. But I must admit, I'm really surprised. I didn't await it that, especially before, you know, my agenda was very much development cooperation driven, whereas here it's very much business driven, startup driven, and science driven. It's really an amazing time. Unfortunately, we have COVID, so I would say immersion into the Indian society is not as deep by now as it should and could have been. But you can be sure I will do that later when COVID has left us.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Burkart. I think with that, most of our viewers would have got a good perspective that Germany is here as a good partner for India to collaborate and to build smart and sustainable solutions. So, like I promised, exactly at 12:50 we finish the panel. Maybe the other speaker will join us tomorrow. So thank you so much. And in standard COVID style, I would like to say also in the Indian style, namaste. And
Namaste.
Looking forward to more encounters in the coming days, months, and years ahead when you are here. And let's see how we can best drive the sustainability agenda forward. Thank you so much
Thank you
for
so
making
much.
time.
Thank you.
And also would like to say there's